Hello, lovely listeners. How are you today? Just pause and listen to that question a minute. How are you? How are you feeling? I am feeling excited, nervous, um, but there is a smile on my face. One of my oldest friends is getting married this weekend, and I can't wait to go and celebrate love. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about all the things that we have going on at Time Hackers. If this is your first episode or you joined recently, you might find fun in going back to our earlier episodes and seeing how we have evolved um, and what's changed. If you are a listener that's been listening for a while, then I would love and appreciate it if you did leave a review. We have so many listeners and so many people leave a review, and I can be the same on podcasts just because it doesn't feel like something that comes to the forefront of my mind when I'm listening to podcasts. So I would love to, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, I don't think they do reviews there, but if you are listening on the podcast, then I would love a review. And you can just drop down and give it the number of stars is between 1 to 5 that you want to give it. If you obviously enjoy the podcast, I would obviously appreciate you giving it 5 stars. And if you do want to say a few words of how the podcast has helped you or who you would recommend it for or what you've gained from listening, then that's great. And if you don't have too many words to say, you can also say something really generic, like I love this podcast. We don't mind. We don't want this to be something that becomes a to-do for you. We want it to be something that becomes an easy, thing done for you, not trying to add to your workload. And if you don't listen on an app where you can leave a review or a testimonial, but you did want to share it in your social media, you can tag me on Instagram at Feminist Time Coach. You can tag me on LinkedIn at Vicky Yaffe, or our business page, Time Hackers Limited, on LinkedIn, or on Facebook, or any of the ways. We always appreciate you sharing. That's one of the reasons why we've never done ads on this podcast and paid ads, is because we want this to be just value led for you. So you guys help me spread the word on this. Thank you so much. So today I wanted to talk to you about something funny that happened this week. I was able to get together with 2 friends on literally a day apart. And on the first day, I was with Ethan, my baby. And on the first day, my friend said, "Oh my gosh, he looks so much like your husband. He's like this spitting image of your husband." And I looked and laughed because a few people said different things. And then the next day, a friend said, "Oh my God, he's such a mix of the two of you. It's wild. You can absolutely see that he's your son." And I said to her, "Isn't it funny how I hear he looks exactly like him. I hear he looks exactly like both of us. I hear he looks like neither of us. I hear he looks like my dad. I hear he looks like his mum. I hear he looks like my dad and his mum had a baby." All kinds of weird things. This was literally a day apart, but also over a matter of weeks. Or even we can see a few people at once and they'll all have different comments on who he looks like. And it just really hit me slap bang in the face this week that how you see yourself when you look in a mirror is not how anyone else sees you. We do not see people the same. Because, for example, if you, like me, I think I had a complex about my nose when I was younger. So I will always look at people's noses. I think my husband has the most perfect nose. He probably doesn't think about noses, right? People will tell me all the time about how much they love my hair. It's not something I love, so I don't really look to it. And yet I will always notice other people with curly hair. It'll be the first thing I notice about them. Someone else could be, the mouth or the eyes or whatever it might be. We all focus in on different features, and based on what we focus in on, we see different things. How wild is that to consider about? Maybe some of you are like, "I knew this already, Vicky," but this just hit me in the face and I had to come and share it with you and apply it, of course, to ourselves, not just our image, but our time, our lives, how we spend our time, how we see ourselves. Our brains have 2 biases that work against us. They work together against us. One is a negativity bias, right? Our brain, wired for survival, wants to always evaluate the problems and see the worst so it can prepare and keep us alive. And then the second thing that happens is we have a confirmation bias, which then goes out of its way to prove our original negative beliefs are true, right? The confirmation bias says that we are more likely to look for information that already agrees with what we are already believing. And the negativity bias says we want to be believing and focusing on the negative things. And what that means for so many of my clients and so many of people that come into Time Hackers that have never time hacked before is that they are very critical of themselves and how they use their time. They're bad with their time. They're always late. They're bad at getting stuff done. They're really disorganized. That was my big story. You might have heard me share that on a previous podcast episode. Yeah, I'm just really disorganized. Or people will say I'm just really bad at making decisions and discredit that every day they're making hundreds of decisions to listen to this podcast, decisions to put clothes on, decisions on what to eat, what to drink, decisions on when to pick up the phone, decisions on when to put it down, decisions on what to say in that email or what to reply to that text. Our brains, like, you are an excellent decision maker. But if you tell yourself you are not a good decision maker, which, by the way, our negativity bias is more prone to do, so that we're not disappointed when we make perhaps a wrong decision, which is, really just a decision that we later find out maybe isn't what we want. So we've actually gotten smarter by making wrong decisions. And then we have the confirmation bias. So our brain is naturally going to think that we aren't good at something as a self-defense mechanism. And then the confirmation bias is going to then have it filter out information to prove that true. And that's how we're approaching our weeks. That's how we're approaching our days. That's how we're approaching our goals, our to-do list, from this view of like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. And our brain is just like, yippee, we're keeping her alive. So just to be mindful, one of the little hacks, a time hack, something that I want you to consider, a power question, instead of sitting in your brains by design, evolved this way, default way of thinking and being and looking at ourselves through high criticism and high negativity, is, what do you think other people admire about you? Notice how we are taking your brain away from its own thoughts. And here, you can even supercharge this by thinking about specific people. What does your best friend admire about you? What does your partner admire about you? What does your child admire about you? What does one of your parents admire about you? What does your former boss admire about you? What does someone in your team admire about you? What does your client, think of a specific client, what do they admire about you? Now, this is taking your brain out of its own habits, out of its own negativity bias, out of its own confirmation bias, and putting it to work. So there may be some resistance at first from your brain whining and saying, this isn't going to work, I don't know, or whatever else it might say to try and block you from making it work. Because remember, our brains are wired to be hyper efficient, to conserve energy, to keep us alive. So when we were in the wild, if we didn't, see food for days, we could survive. So we want to be teaching our brain that it's safe to work as well and to think differently. So this is just one of the ways that we retrain your brain as part of time hacking. Reminder, your brain is your number one time tool. You want it on board. Your day and your time will go vastly different when you are in a mindset of, I can do this, I am capable, I am enough, versus I can't do this, I'm not capable, I'm lacking something. Like, that is the difference with how your day goes, more so than, how pretty your calendar looks, or how perfect your plan is, or how many episodes on Netflix you watch, or whatever it might be. So really, this is a super powerful question. It's the one takeaway that I want you can even pause. If you're listening in the car or listening on a walk, pause and answer it right now. Think of one specific person. I gave you some examples, but probably someone came to your head immediately. What do they admire about you? What do they see in you that your brain isn't seeing on purpose because of the negativity bias, because of the confirmation bias? This is such a juicy question and an amazing time hack, and such a powerful way to redirect your brain on purpose before you go into the weeds of whatever it is that you want to do today. It's like rocket fuel for you. So I wanted to give you that gift of this power question and share the interesting tale of the many faces of my son, who looks like everyone and looks like no one all at once. That's it from me. as a final reminder, if you love this episode, share it with someone you love. If you love this podcast, please leave 5 stars. If you really want to do us a massive solid, then you will leave a few kind words as well. We really appreciate it. And if you are watching on YouTube or you are watching somewhere where you can't leave a review, then at least send this episode to 1 or 2 people, maybe the people that you thought of, maybe people that you want to know that you admire something in them. And you could even share, if you wanted to, what you admire in them, something you admire in them. And that's it from me. All right, as always, I will leave the links in the show notes to find out more about our one-to-one Time Hacker coaching program, which is just launched, which is going amazing. We are having people come in and get 6 coaching sessions with a Time Hacker coach for a fraction of the price of investing in the Time Hackers Lifetime Access program. I will also leave the link to both, actually, just so you can read up on both. That's it from me. Have a wonderful day sitting in what's amazing about you for a change. Be intentional with this. It might seem, your brain might want you to believe that it's not important. It is the most important thing. You already know that you experience time differently, right? One day can be amazing, the next day less so. Things can be slow, things can be fast. This is one of the biggest differences. Okay, what do other people admire about you? And if you're bold enough and brave enough, then I would also add, what do I admire about myself? Now, I would use the first one first, what do other people admire? It's just a little brain hack to get your brain into the flow and the juices. Because the truth is, what your answer is for what other people admire about you is also going to be what you admire about you, because we don't actually know what other people think. And that admiration, that self-admiration, is a confidence fueler. It's a time hack. It's a productivity hack. It's an achievement hack. It's the way to optimize your performance and day and experience of life generally. All right, that's it from me. Bye.